All right, so good afternoon, everyone. All right, so we're looking at the topic of ratios. Ratios can be treated as fractions. It is where a fixed value is broken into equal parts, and those parts are then shared among persons. For example, let's say we had $300 and we had it broken into $50 groups. Right? So you had $50, another $50, another $50. So we'll have 6 groups of $50 to make the $300. Let's say we shared $300 amongst 2 friends in the ratio of 5 to 1. Now, this is simply telling me how much of these smaller shares we are given to each individual. It tells us that one friend receives 5 groups of the $50, so they'll receive 5 $50 groups, and the other will receive one $50 group. So that means that, say, Ty and Isa, if Ty received 5 of the $50 groups, that will be 5 times 50, which is $250. While Isa received one group of $50. So that means Isa only got $50. Notice when you add them back, you'll get the total. All right, so let's look at some questions when it comes to ratios. So let's say they told us a ratio like all right, so they gave us this and it told us to divide $45 into 2 parts in the ratio 4 to 5. Right, so we simply read this as 4 to 5. That simply means that if I have 2 friends, let's say Roy and James. So if we have 2 friends, Roy and James. Now, what they're doing is they're going to break up this $45 into smaller equal parts. And they're telling us that of those smaller equal parts, Roy will receive 4 and James will receive 5 parts. Now, when it comes to ratios, there are 2 things they're always going to do. One, if it's given in a form like this, you could find the total number of parts. We could write this, yes. We could write this page. So you can find total number of parts by adding your ratios. So you can find total number of parts by adding the ratios. So that means the total number of parts will be 4 plus 5, which is 9 parts. They are always going to give you, if it's a question like this, a value that represents a specific number of parts. All right, so you can find total number of parts by adding the ratios. They will give you a value which represents a given number of parts. So for this one, the total number of parts would have been 4 plus 5, which is 9 parts. But the information they gave us was $45, which was shared. So that means the total number of money the total number of parts is equal to 9 parts. The total amount of money is equal to 45. They will give you a value which represents a given number of parts. So for this one, they're telling me that 9 parts is equal to $45. What we have to do next is you have to find out for one part, right? So remember, your goal is to find for one part right? So in order to find for one part, in order to make 9 1, I could divide by 9. 9 divided by 9 is 1 part. So 1 part is equal to, but both sides we have to do on the same. We have to do the same thing. So it's going to be 45 divided by 9. So find for one part and then find for any number of parts. All right, so that means that 1 part is equal to 45 divided by 9. So 1 part is $5. So we found for the 1 part was $5. But they asked us to share it in 4 to 5 parts. Right, that's the ratio. So for us to find out how much money the person who receives four parts will receive, we'll say 4 parts, I'll put P for parts, is equal to, now 1 part is $5. So if I have 4 parts, I'll have $5 times 4. So 4 parts will be equal to 5 fours, which are 20. And then if I have to find for the 5 parts, same thing. Remember, 1 part is $5. So we'll say $5 times the 5 parts. So that's 5 fives, which are $25. Now, if you check back, you're going to see the person who received 4 parts received $20, and the person who received 5 parts received $25. Look at it. 20 plus 25, is that not the $45? There are 32 children in a class. The ratio of the number of boys to girls is 9 to 7. How many boys and girls are there? So you remember your steps. First things first, when they give you the ratio, the order in which they mention the categories align with the ratio. So you see how we had boys, two girls, right? So we had boys to girls. Boys was first, mentioned first. So that means the 9 parts were allocated to the boys, and the 7 parts would have been allocated to the girls. Now, what we can do is we could first find out the total of your number of parts. So 9 plus 7, that's 16. So we have 16 parts in all. Now the number they gave us, remember they're going to give you a value that represents some number of parts. So in this case, we have the total number of students as 32, and the total number of parts as 16. So that means 16 parts is equal to 32. So we find for 1 part, we could find for 1 part by dividing both sides by 16, because 16 divided by 16 is 1. Anything divided by itself is 1. So whatever I do to the left side, I must do to the right side. So I'll also divide the 32 by 16. So 32 divided by 16 will be 2. So that means one of those parts, when it comes to the ratio, represents 2 children. part. And then from that, you could find any amount that you want. So for the boys, we had 9 parts. So if one part was 2, then 9 parts would be 2 times 9. And 2 times 9 is 18. So that means there were 18 boys and then they told us that there were 7 parts which represented the girls. So that means the girls would have been 7 parts is equal to 2 times 7. 7 twos are 14. So it means therefore that we have 18 boys and 14 girls. Yes, and if you like, you can add these two values, 18 plus 14, and you're going to see that you got the total number of students in the class. All right, so let's look at this one. Share the contents of a box containing 30 chocolates amongst Anne, Mary, and Sue in the ratio of 3 to 4 to 3. How many will each person get? All right, so again, they mentioned 3 persons were sharing the chocolates amongst. That's Anne, Mary, and Sue. Note the order in which they mentioned them, okay? The order in which they mentioned them is the order in which the ratio stands. So that means the first person was Anne, so she got 3 parts. Mary received 4 parts, and Sue received 3 parts. We can first start by finding the so as I did took the 30 chocolates and they broke it equally into 10 parts. Now I know the total chocolates. That's the information they gave me. The total chocolates will be 30, and I know the total parts. The total parts would have been 10 parts. Your goal is always to find for one given the information given. So I know that 10 parts is equal to 30. So I find for one part, I could say 10 divided by 10 is 1. But whatever I do to this side, I must also do to this side. So 30 divided by 10 is 3. So one part is 3 chocolates. Now from that information, I know that Anne, she received 3 parts. And if one part was 3, then 3 parts will be 3 multiplied by 3. So Anne received 3 3s are 9. Mary, on the other hand, received 4 parts. So that's going to be 3, which is the value of 1 part, times the 4 to find for 4 parts. So 4 3s are 12. And then Sue also received 3 parts. So again, she got 9 parts. Right? So that means that Anne received 9 chocolates. Mary received 12 chocolates, and Sue received 9 chocolates. And if you want, you can add up the 3 values, 9 plus 12 plus 9, and you'll get the full total of chocolates, which was shared amongst them, which is 30. All right, so look at this question. A sum of money was to be divided among A, B, and C. So the order in which they list the names or the categories, it's the same order it's going to appear with respect to your ratio. So that means A was mentioned first, so A would have received 2 parts. B was mentioned second, so that would be 3 parts. And C third, so C received 5 parts. They gave us a piece of information. They gave you a clue. They said the largest share was 1,200. They did not tell you the total amount of money. They told you the largest share is equal to 1,200 or $1,200. I could find my total number of parts. That's 2 plus 3 is 5, 5 plus 5 is 10 parts. This 10 is the total number of parts. But did they give us the total amount of money? No. They told us the largest share was $1,200. If you look, the largest share was the number 5. So that means 5 parts is equal to $1,200. So what they do is they are going to give you some piece of information, whether it's the total or the value of one of these shares. And you have to use that information to find for one. And then you could find for any amount that they want. So in order to make this one, I would have divided by 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1. But whatever I do to this side, I must do it to this side. So that's going to be 1,200 divided by 5, which is $240. So 1 part is $240. So we need to find for 1 part, and then we could find for any amount. Now the question asks us, what is the total sum of money to be shared? Now we know the total is 10 parts. So we need to figure out how much is 10 parts. Now I know 1 part is $240. So 10 parts will be whatever I do to this side to make it 10. So I would have multiplied this side by 10. So I must also multiply this side by 10. So 10 parts will be 240 times 10, which is $2,400. So that's the total sum of money shared amongst the 3 individuals. Then they said to find A's share. Now A's share was 2 parts. So A is equal to 2 parts. And if I know 1 part is 10, sorry, 1 part is 240, sorry. I say, remember, the value of 1 part was $240. Then two parts will be 240 times 2. So that will be 2 zeros are 0, 4 twos are 8, 2 ones, 2 twos are 4. So that means that A, who received two parts, received $480. We'll come back to the percentages part. Let's look at this one here. A piece of string 64 centimeters long. That's the entire string. So that's the total piece. So your total string is going to be 64 centimeters. And they said it's divided into 3 pieces in the ratio of 1 to 2 to 5. So it's like they had the string, the 64 centimeters was equally divided and shared within a particular ratio. So this one got 1 part, this one received 2 parts, this one received 5 parts. I could find my total parts by adding them. 5 plus 2, that's 7, and 1 makes 8. So that's 8 parts. So the information they gave me was the total string. And I know the total number of parts it was divided into was 8 parts. So that would be 8 parts is equal to 64 centimeters. So I could find for 1 part, that's 64 divided by 8. (64 divided by 8 is 8. So the value of 1 part is 8. 8 centimeters. Now, what did they ask us to find? They said to calculate the length of the longest piece. The longest piece was 5 parts. So I'll have 5 parts is equal to 8 centimeters. 8 centimeters multiplied by 5. Because remember, 1 part is 8. So 5 parts will be the 8 centimeters times 5. So 5 parts, which will be the longest, right? So that will be the longest piece, will be 8 5, which will be 40 centimeters. All right, so we can try these. We can look at all of them. They ask us in different ways. But one thing you have to recall is that they're going to give you how much the total or that particular share was broken into. Right, so that will be the number of parts. And then they'll give you some piece of information that tells you about one of the given parts, whether it was the total or if it was like the largest or the smallest. But you use that information to find for one, and then you could find for however many.